There's a nice look there at Milan in Italy, which will be the center of the sports universe in 100 days' time, which is, I mean, that's unreal to even think of. Yes, the Milan Cortina Winter Olympics will be in 100 days. And by the time you're watching, probably less than. It's incredible that the countdown is at this point. Feels like we just put Paris to bed a couple of, it feels like yesterday, but it was actually last year, last summer. Here to help us kind of get underway with the countdown, a good friend of mine, Ken Hanscom. He is the COO of Ticket Manager, but I also like to call him as my Olympic super fan. We spoke before the Paris Olympics, and he gave us a lot of great tips as to kind of planning your trip if you're thinking about going to the Olympics. Here to do the same thing with Milan Cortina. And, Ken, I feel like it's the same question. Like you have an Olympics and it's like, oh my gosh, it's within 100 days. And you're trying to think of like, can I still go? I guess that's the main question. I remember asking you this before Paris. Can I still go to Paris? And you were like, yes, you definitely can. How about Milan Cortina? I mean, under 100 days, can you still plan the Olympic dream trip of a lifetime?
You can, and it's incredible because it may be the least expensive Olympics trip that we've seen in history. I thought nothing would beat Rio going back to 2016, but right now the value on flights at less than $500 round trip during that middle week, and looking at hotels, right? You can get a four-star hotel for less than $150 in Milan, so it's a very attractive for anyone who really wants to go to Milan.
I mean, cheapest trip in this economy. That sounds like a bargain. But these games will be quite different than in previous winter games for a lot of different reasons. I think we haven't had a regular Winter Olympics, obviously, in 8 years since Pyeongchang in
Yeah.
2018. Obviously, the Beijing Games were quite different because of COVID. And in terms of accessibility, we haven't really seen a games like this since Vancouver, since the Vancouver Olympic Games, because after that was Sochi, which was an interesting location for a
Yeah.
Winter Olympics, and then we had Pyeongchang, which they were great hosts. I know you were at the Pyeongchang Olympics,
Yeah.
but it was a little out of the way for some people. So this is kind of the first time we've had a real big world city, a city that's pretty well known, host an Olympics. What's going to be different about these Winter Olympics?
Yeah, I think one of the things to be a key difference is logistically, if you want to go to the mountain events, because there's three or four different mountain locations, you really have to plan your trip very carefully. If you're looking to just simply go to Milan, right, and there's great sport happening right there, both ice hockey tournaments, and for the men's tournament, right, NHL is back, figure skating's there, speed skating. So you have all of these, great events in Milan. But if you're looking to get up to the mountains, it's going to require quite a larger amount of planning than it has historically.
So when we think about the Winter Olympics, obviously you think kind of into real spheres, even though these games will kind of have really four separate clusters. When you look at the venue map, you really think mountains for skiing, and you really think, the indoor, ice kind of things for like speed skating, figure skating, ice hockey, all that stuff. Let's say you're planning let's say you're planning 5 days. That's basically how long I spent going to Paris.
Yeah.
What's the best strategy? You kind of touched upon it a bit. You kind of have to pick and choose your battle per se, because it's going to be really hard to get from one cluster to another. What's the best way to go about planning a 5 to 7 day experience where you can get a taste of as much of the Winter Olympics as you can?
I think you're going to need to spend some time in Milan, a couple of days, 2, 3 days, opportunity to see a couple of events in a given day, and then head up to a mountain location. I think getting to multiple mountain locations in 5 to 7 days is going to be a little challenging, right? You can go up to Bormio, Livigno; those are in the same areas. But I think we also you have to look at the costs associated with it. When you get up to the mountain regions, your lodging is going to be considerably more expensive, right? We're talking probably minimum $500 a night when you get up into the Cortina region or the Bormio Livigno, simply because there's just not as much space there as there is in Milan. And Milan's going to be much more attractive, I would say, from if you're really on a budget and you're looking to go to your first Olympics without spending a ton of money. Still, if you do have those resources and you want to do that, you're going to want to look at what events are happening in what cluster and plan a couple of days in each cluster.
A lot of people forget that, when we watch the Olympics on TV, you kind of see the packaged version, and when you go to an Olympics, let's say alpine skiing, you're really only getting to see a fraction of the event itself. Same thing with bobsled, even worse actually, because bobsled
Yes.
and the sliding sports happen, they're zooming by. You probably only see about 2 to 3 seconds. You're an Olympics expert by now. You've been to several of these. What are some of the tips you can get in terms of going to a Winter Olympics and getting your most bang for your buck? What are some of the events that are worth shelling out the money for?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the worldwide, interest in this, right? I think figure skating, so the men's competition, the women's competition, those are going to be two things that all eyes are on those. Of course, I think the ice hockey tournaments, right? If you look at USA and Canada, potentially the two that could meet up in both of the finals. When we talk about some epic matches that haven't happened with, at least from the men's side, the full NHL since 2014, we are talking about some really great events. And then, of course, when you get to the mountains, I think you think about snowboarding, right? Chloe Kim. I think the half pipe. When you look at one that is great on in person in addition to television is also the slalom race. So if you really want to see an alpine event where you can see the entire race, that's another great event. So those are some of the ones I would put at the top of my list in terms of one. There's going to be great energy around them, as there are with all pretty much winter sports in Europe, much more so than there is here in the U.S. But also some things that I think are going to be major events on TV back home.
All right, let's talk travel. Let's first talk about getting there. I know you're a guy that kind of looks at airline prices and airfare and kind of see how if it goes up and down. 100 days and counting until the Winter Olympics. What are you looking at in terms of airfare? What are you seeing in terms of how much it's going to cost to travel over to Italy?
Yeah, I think if you're looking to go into Milan, you can get in there for under $500. This is from Los Angeles, California. If you're flying from Los Angeles, California, all the way to Milan, Scandinavian Air is less than $450 right now to be able to get there. Now, if you're looking to go up to Cortina Mountains, that you might want to instead fly into Venice, and because Venice is much closer and one less train ride away from Cortina. But if effectively right now, if you are looking go to Milan, it's less than $450. Your kind of your entry cost to be able to get over there.
All right, so now you're there. You get to Milan Cortina, wherever you end up going to, and you do want to get a taste of kind of everything. Even though we've said now multiple times, you maybe want to pick and choose. In terms of traveling, either within Milan or within the Cortina area, trying to get between mountains. Like, so what's kind of your best strategy if you're trying to get venue to venue? And maybe we want to break this up into getting around Milan and then getting around the mountains.
Yeah, let's talk about. Yeah, I think we should do it that way.
Sure.
And I drove to every single one of these events back in 2023 to every single venue, and it's a lot of driving. I don't know if you. I did that during the summer. I'm not sure if you really want to do that during the winter with the mountain roads. But in Milan's a very metropolitan city. It has a fantastic metro. It's as easy to get around as Paris was for Paris 2024, just 18 months ago or so. And so I think when you're there, getting from one venue to the other, as long as your hotel or the place that you're choosing to stay is relatively within a 15, 20-minute walk of a metro, you're going to be able to be at your venue within 30 to 45 minutes, kind of the worst case scenario there. So it's very accessible. And I think one of the things that's very interesting about Winter Olympics, which a lot of people don't realize, is that there's always a place in the evenings when the medals are handed out. And I think that's going to be one of the things that's happening near the Duomo in Milan is the medals will be given in a ceremony every evening. So whether or not you went to an event or not, or when you go to an event, you actually have basically a ticket to that party at night. So that's one of the things you want to mix into your schedule. So if you had an event earlier in the day and there's going to be medal celebrations that night, you might want to reserve some time on your calendar, head down to the center of city so you can watch some of those celebrations.
Yeah, that is one of the unique parts about a Winter Olympics. That doesn't really happen in the summer. Although Paris was kind of doing that a little bit, not the actual medal
Yeah.
ceremony. They did have that kind of champion celebration that was out right by the Eiffel Tower. So maybe the summer games are taking a page out of the winter playbook. But that is such a cool thing that the Winter Games really does. Kind of combining now the Italian kind of culture and maybe people want to get a taste of both, because that really is the unique part about an Olympics is that when you go, you also get a taste of what the culture is like in that specific host city or host nation. What are some of your tips there as to kind of maximizing your experience when you're trying to balance out the sports and then the culture?
Yeah, I think Italy's famous for food, of course. For people
Yeah.
like me who love Italian food and eat a ton of it. There's great food restaurants in Milan. I've done food tours there in the past. I know those are ample where you get to experience a taste of different sorts of cultures. There's cooking classes. There's of course a lot of art museums. Obviously one of the largest cathedrals in the world is there in terms of what's been built, and I think also you have a high kind of fashion influence there in Milan. So I think those are some of the key cultural aspects. If those are things that are important to you and you want to really fit into your Olympic experience, that you'd want to make time for, specifically in Milan.
One thing you and I love talking about is hospitality houses. Is it going to be different this year? Again, we're seeing it spread out. This is going to be one of the more spread out Winter Olympics we've seen. But hospitality, as we saw from Paris, it's back. And I can't imagine sponsors and houses not taking advantage of that kind of opportunity. What's the hospitality landscape going to look like for these games?
Yeah, I think the primary area is going to be in Milan, but it is a little bit more challenging because now when you have and whether or not you're a an Olympic committee or certain federation, you have to pick and choose where you're going to invest your resources, because you can't really have three different hospitality houses. Meaning you can't have I guess you could, but it's going to be prohibitively expensive to have maybe a Team USA house or Canada house in Bormio, and one in Cortina and another one in Milan. So it's going to be a little bit more muted. I think some countries are still kind of figuring out exactly what they want to do, because just from a logistics standpoint, you do have your team, you have your athletes, and how you have all your resources spread throughout the region. So I don't expect we'll see the same level of hospitality houses that we had in Paris, but we will see opportunities for that.
All right, before I let you go, you're an LA guy and LA is on deck. I'm just wondering, have you started thinking about what the LA Olympics are going to look like? You're going to be hosting basically this time.
Yeah, I know. I think we're getting already starting to get a good look at that with the World Cup coming here next summer, and the excitement here in the city around that and the events that'll be here. But well beyond that, there's already a buzz. And anyway, I talk to somebody, aren't you so excited for LA to be able to host the 20 Olympics? I think we are. I think we have some amazing things coming up. I think one of my favorite events to watch during the Summer Olympics to attend in person is swimming, and thinking about having SoFi Stadium full of spectators, 35, 40,000 spectators watching swimming, just as an example of some of the innovations and new things we're seeing from LA 28. I think that's exciting. I mean, I had got to experience that at Lucas Oil for the trials back in
Yeah.
2024. So that's just one of, probably 15 or 20 things that'd be phenomenal. And I do expect, to your point, the hospitality houses to be like nothing we've ever seen before.
Yeah, it's going to be really exciting. What number of games will this be for you? Five, six?
I think this is five.
Five.
This is five for me.
One for the thumb. That's awesome.
Yeah, exactly.
Ken Hanscom, COO, ticket manager, and also our Olympic super fan. Really appreciate the time. Great tips. Thanks as always, Ken. And that'll do it for this edition of NBC4 Sports Extra. 100 days to go until the Winter Olympics. Wow. All right, that'll do it for this edition. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for watching. For more NBC4, download the NBC4 streaming app. You'll get free 24/7 local programming streamed straight to your living room. Just search NBC4 Columbus on your Apple TV, Amazon Fire, Roku, or Samsung device.